I'm Vivian Anani, a volunteer on this project. Can you introduce yourself and your connection to this historic church building?
My name is Shamim Kyomya. I'm originally from Uganda, which is in East Africa. I've done several events in this building for different projects, and that's how I know the church.
Okay, so as a chef, you have delivered 2 cooking sections for young people in the church. How was the services and the equipment that you used for the training?
Actually, you know, starting from the place itself and how wide the place is, because with cooking you need a bigger space, and you're dealing with teenagers as well. So I've done a project for teenagers, teaching them how to cook. You need a bigger space, you know, they can mess around, and the church actually provides that kind of space for the teenagers to be in. When you talk about the equipment itself, you know, they have almost everything in the church you need. So for the cooking, they have the utensils, the pots, they have a wide gas or cooker, an oven, which is multi-purpose, you know, for everything. So the services were great, to be honest, and more than I expected.
Okay. So will you describe this building, the church building, as adequate for teaching cooking lessons?
I think it's more than enough. Like I said, it's got like everything you need for cooking. If you need, for cooking, basically, if you're doing it for much people or like a lot of activity, like you need quick and fast cooking, you need a bigger oven. And this church has got like 2 wide ovens and what do you call them? Yeah, you got a wide oven, you got a wide cooker for cooking, you've got 2 kitchens, you have one upstairs and one downstairs. So that is very helpful. So there's no congestion in the kitchen, which is something you need to avoid for safety purposes, basically. So if you need pots, utensils, cutting boards, knives, everything is in the church, so you don't even have to come with anything. If you wanted to, you can come with your own stuff, but everything can be provided on the venue.
Okay, thank you. You also provided catering services for another event that took place in the building. How was that experience?
So I did an event for the Summer Sisters. It was a massive event. We did host the Mayor of Liverpool, and I did a buffet for them, which I think was a great success because everyone was complimenting about the food. It was an African buffet on the day, and everybody did compliment about the food, and I was really grateful. You know, like people were asking for contact. So many people have contacted me since that event. So I think it was a great success.
Do you think the historic relevance of the building reinforced the cooking section?
I think that played a role because, you know, like for teenagers, when they come into the building and you tell them about the history of the building, they're really excited to be here. Most of them, when they came, they didn't know much about the building, but I was talking to one of them and I told them about the relevance, the historical background of the building. But before then, they had even commented about how the high ceiling in the building, it's really, really high, which you don't find in the buildings where most of the teenagers, for example, go to school or the activities they do. So this is really an historical place, and it's really interesting even for the teenagers. I'm glad they even noticed, you know, before about the ceiling. So one of them was asking a question, why is the ceiling so big and high? And I had to explain to them that this is because it's an old building that's been in place for hundreds of years. I think they would be excited to not come into the building knowing the historical background.
So what cooking techniques and recipes do you use, and why do you choose them, those particular techniques and recipes?
I try to stick to traditional kind of cooking. In terms of recipes, that is mainly directed with what the teenagers want. So if I've got say 10 teenagers coming, I do a pre-consultation with the teenagers and ask them. So it's more client-led, if I might say that. So if I ask the teenagers, what do you want to make on the day? What do you want to learn? They kind of direct what I'm going to be doing on the day. And most of them will come up and say, can we make this, auntie? As you know, most teenagers in the community or kids in the community, they call any grown up, woman, uncle or auntie. So they will be coming to you and say, auntie, can we make this? Or auntie, can we make that? So it's more client-led
A lot of young people these days don't like going to church. Do you personally think using this building for cooking lessons may make some enjoy attending church services?
Definitely, definitely, because, you know, there is that perception about what church is, but when someone actually comes to church and sees what it is, and we can do cooking in the church. So for the teenagers that were hosted into the church, the ones I led in the catering services, they were really excited to know. For example, most of them were going onto the piano and playing, so I had the pastor explaining some of the other activities that take place within the church, and that is the best way to introduce someone who's away from church, basically, when they learn more about what is in the church, and it's not just, we come and play. Sometimes it's prayers through play. So in that way, you are encouraging them to come into church. And the fact that cooking can take place in the church, that in itself is encouraging for the kids. It's not, you make them think that it's not just about seriousness of prayers, but you can also come into church, learn how to cook, learn to play the piano. There is also other activities that go in within the church. For example, I spoke about the summer camp. In the summer camp, there is a lot of activities that the kids do within the camp, and that is also taking place within the church. So that is a good time to introduce church to the kids when they're actually engaging in these activities. So in a way, it's not scary for the kids then than telling the child, you're going on church to Sunday. To church on a Sunday. You understand? So in this way, you get introducing church without even them noticing that you're introducing church.
Okay. So most Africans attend one church or another. Which church do you attend, and why that particular church?
Right. Myself, I'm a Muslim. Okay. But I'm very, very diverse, and I'm all right going to any churches. Like, I've hosted activities, events in this church. The kids do come to summer camp in this church. So although I'm a Muslim, I'm also very open-minded. I'm very inclusive. I'm respectful of what people believe in. And that's what I teach my children as well, and try to teach the teenagers who I do services with. You have to be very respectful of what people believe in.
Anything else you want to add about your catering services experience across Liverpool?
In terms of the experience, it's not been bad at all, although it's something that I do part-time. I still have clients who come to me, because in catering you have to sell yourself. Your services have to speak for themselves, and that's what I've done. So those who know Kim's Cuisine will come to Kim's Cuisine because they know what they're paying for, they know what they're coming for, and I keep getting people who, although we might be so many other African people, but because specifically I'm doing the African cuisine, but also with an East African twist. So that in a way puts me in a kind of special place, different from other people who might be, for example, doing East African cuisines and all that. Not to say that I can't do something that is inclusive for everywhere in Africa, but I don't do like cuisines for example, the white community, because it's mainly food that I'm not very used to. So it's mainly for African kind of people. That's why it's called Kim's Cuisine. It's an African kind of cuisine for African people, Caribbean people, and white people who might want to try the African cuisine.
So what do you think this building will be in the next 100 years?
I think lucky enough for this building, it's been listed as one of the buildings that need to be protected. So that means the future for this building might be bright, because it can't be demolished unless, I don't know if something changes within the law, but it's one of the protected buildings. So it's gonna stay for hundreds of years. And I'm lucky to be one of those people who have used these services. It's an historical building, and to be part of people who have been into this building that's been in existence since like 1870, that's really cool, isn't it? Yes. Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Oh, it's nice to meet you too, and thank you very much.
Thank you.